Signing a building contract might feel like the finish line for a developer, but in reality, it's just the start of the most complex phase of the project. Because once construction begins, the relationship between developer and builder becomes absolutely critical. Welcome back to Inside Property Development. Today I'm joined by Marcus from our project management team, who works closely with builders across a wide range of development projects. In this episode, we're going to talk about the risks that appear once contracts are signed, the warning signs developers should watch out for during construction, and how experienced developers manage builder relationships properly. Let's get into it. Marcus, what risks appear once the build contract is signed?
Yeah, it's a good question, Pete. We do a lot of work prior to the contract being signed to make sure that hopefully no surprises come up throughout the construction period. But in our invitation to tender that we send to all of our builders, there's a lot of detail in that we get from them, which helps us understand how busy they are, what their typical program looks like, what they're actually including in their tender, and what's their recent experience and relevant experience, which includes references as well. So you can fact check all this stuff against some of their other clients.
Yeah.
So we try to mitigate and minimize and just understand as much risk and what we can about the builder before we actually go and sign that contract. So I guess a lot of the work we do is in the early phase of the contract negotiation and signing.
Yeah, love it. Because obviously the questions focus on what happens once you've signed the contract, but it's the work and it's the amount of work, the due diligence that happens getting to know your builder before you sign the contract. Because once you sign the contract, game on, like you're wedded until that project's handed over and finish, and even post that obviously with insurances and maintenance periods and those sorts of things. So it's about winding back and about eliminating and understanding those risks before you sign the contract.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I take you to a pretty simple one, but the scope. We set down a trade breakdown and give them all the specifications for the build. So basically just not leaving any ambiguity up to the builder, because typically if something's not specified, a builder can charge you more than what you should be paying for something that should have been spec'd from the start.
Yep.
So it's just about locking down every trade item, every specification, so that when the time comes, there's nothing that's going to catch you by surprise.
Yeah, for sure. I used to think about it like building the house, building the development, whatever, before you actually build it. So it's about not leaving any stone unturned and having all those conversations rather than just trying to get time and, trying to claw back some time. Maybe you've lost, sign the contract, let's get rolling. But then that all can unravel throughout a build and you're exposed at that point.
I think it's really important to take your time at the front end of your contract when you're in that contract phase of your development, because it can, if you rush through it, it can end up costing you in the long run. So you might think you're saving a week or a month, but reality could stick in and something could be unknown, and 6 months in you could be facing a delay or a price rise increase that you weren't aware of, which probably could have been avoided if you had done your due diligence at the start of the project. That's how I like to look at that phase in the development.
Yeah, for sure. So once you sign the contract, which we all need to sign the contract to kick it off, it's really the risks only exist after that, based on the work and due diligence that you've done prior to that. So there is always risks. There's risks in anything, but the work you've done prior to that will determine your understanding of those and how they can be managed throughout the build. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, there's always going to be risk, and it's just about understanding how comfortable you are with each of those risks, and just getting as much information as you can before you sign the contract. If a builder is really busy and their communication isn't good, and they've put all this relevant experience on, if they're taking a week to get back to you on things, you might not be at the top of your priority list. And more often than not, when I've sent a tender out and they've been slow to react, that builder hasn't won the tender, despite consistent communication throughout. So just those small telltale signs as well just really can paint a picture for what your your 12 months with a builder is going to look like.
100%. Like you're genuinely getting into business with this guy or girl, and that early pre-contract signing time, that's your opportunity to get to know these people and see how they act and have those conversations where what about this and what about that and how you're going to do that detail and what happens when you're late, and like don't think that those conversations are going to be, oh well, that's a bit negative, I don't want to talk about that. That's exactly what you need to talk. They're the things you need to talk about.
Yeah, it's a red flag if they're being a bit evasive on things that, if you're asking what their program's like or asking them to explain why they haven't or why they've included this provisional sum and they're being a bit evasive and not explaining it, it might paint a picture. So just be aware of that.
All right, Marcus, great. So all the work, or not the lion's share of the work, is pre-contract signing. What are the risks? Because obviously there is risks after signing the contract that people just need to be aware of. And if they're aware of them, then obviously that due diligence can probably be tighter and more meaningful and useful when they know the risks that are going to live post-contract signing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be comfortable with the risk that you're signing on. So some risks that we always are aware of are going to be provisional sums. We try to fix as much as we can, but sometimes there has to be some provisional sums.
So just dumbing down, how would you describe a provisional sum?
Provisional sum is an item that the builder can't accurately price based on the information that they've got.
Yeah, so it's unfixed.
It's unfixed. Provisional sum that we see pretty frequently is landscaping.
Yeah.
They will give us an allowance when we sign the contract. The reason why most builders use landscaping as a provisional sum is because it's so far away in the process. It's going to be 12, 14 months away by the time they tender it.
Yeah.
So we're comfortable with that risk. It's not going to increase too much in that time, we think. If it does, the builder might make a bit of extra money, but we can hopefully, our relationship is good enough that they're not charging extra margin at the end.
I guess so, but for the punters at home that are dealing maybe with a one-off builder and don't have the relationships that we have, like if you've got all the details, if you've got the plants, you've got the square meter rates, you've got, how much soil do you need, all this sort of stuff, is that something you can and should get fixed in? Yeah,
it's a really good point. Lots of builders still do fix their landscaping. How they price that is up to them. But to mitigate your risk as an owner signing the contract, it's worth asking the question if the builder will fix it. There's no reason why they shouldn't.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you're negotiating, obviously the contract, you are at your strongest negotiating powers before you've signed the contract. Once you've signed the contract and they're your builder, your negotiating power goes out the window, doesn't it? So
yeah, definitely.
Would the goal be always to minimize provisional sums?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to fix as much as we can. So
yeah. But I know what you're saying, that sometimes landscaping isn't a huge risk either, as long as you have got the good relationship with the builder and they can show you what they're allowing for, and even plant sizes and things like that.
Yeah, even just getting a breakdown of the costs from the start, it can all help.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, that's a good point. If you can get a breakdown of maybe what would have been allowed or has been allowed, and then at least you've got that benchmark for when it comes time for landscaping and they want to say, hey, the cost is now X. Well, at least you've got something to benchmark that off rather than just having no idea.
Yeah, even a good one is just asking the builder to show the landscape quote at the start. Some builders might do it, some builders might not. But if you have that, and then you can see the quote in 12 months' time, if you do end up going with a provisional sum, you can see the true increases.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the labour is going to be the same. It should be the same. But plants and other things from suppliers might increase. But that's just a helpful tip for some as well. Another one that we see is it's a latent condition, which is always going to be a risk, and then that's what's under the ground, what the builder can't see.
Yeah, so a latent condition, is something mainly out of everyone's control.
Correct. Yeah. So basically, what's under the soil, which no builder is going to know. We obviously get your soil reports, but that's only going to be 3 holes in the ground at 600 mil depth. So there's still some unknowns there. But latent conditions basically come about when a builder starts excavating and the soil condition might not be what the soil report states. So sometimes the builders have to bring in extra sand, which then results in extra concrete, which the owner usually has to wear as a latent condition because the soil is not doing what we thought it was going to do from the start.
Yeah, understand. So they're not able to form up their footings properly, extra concrete, but I guess they need to make sure in the contract what's been allowed for and then how much concrete's actually been poured.
Yeah.
It goes back to that point you made earlier about actually saying, well, how much did you allow for? And then what are the dockets from the concrete truck? Just to try and, is that fair? Like try and...
That's a really good example.
Have a chance of sort of marrying it up?
Yeah. Look, if you can tell a story between what was allowed for and what actually happened on site, it makes the whole thing a lot easier to understand.
Yeah.
That's how we can manage it and just understand it and know that the builder isn't throwing on extra cubic meters and we're paying for what we actually get.
Yeah, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, Brucey.
That's right, BK. That's what we say.
Great, Marcus. Some gold in there. Next one, what are the warning signs that developers should look out for with builders?
It's a good question. There's probably 3 main red flags.
Yeah.
First being their communication. The second, if their tender price comes in unusually low.
Yeah.
And how transparent they are on each of their cost items.
Yeah, love it. So let's talk about communication. And this is all things you can try and identify pre-contract signing, pre the wedding.
Yep.
Let's say communication. What would an example there?
The 4-week process that you communicate throughout your tender process is a small snapshot of the next 12 months with your builder. So the conversations that you have, just don't think too deep about them. But if they're taking a week to get back to you about a small item, that might be a red flag for future.
Yeah, no, I love that and that would probably be the time in the project where they'd be putting on their best show potentially because they're wanting to win your work. I think pre-wedding.
Definitely, a good builder should be able to come back to you on simple questions pretty quickly. So it's just simple things like that you want to be aware of.
Yeah, love it. Now, next one, low tender price, because this can get people a little bit excited, especially if I've been there. You're running a tender process and you've had 3 to 4 builders quote, and a couple of them are a bit higher. And then, hello, we've got a cheap one. It's a warning sign for you.
Yeah, it can be. It can definitely be a warning sign. Not to say that a low price isn't a good price, but if it's consistently lower than your 3 other building quotes, something's probably been missed.
Yes.
Which, if you don't investigate, could then end up hurting you if you do sign with that builder. So, we hear, for example, I had a project where there was 2 builders left at the end. One builder was slightly cheaper, and the client ended up signing with the more expensive builder. We found out maybe 12 months later on that the builder that was cheaper, their friend had signed a contract with them and they paid 6 figures in variations throughout the build.
Wow.
So overall, it would have cost them a lot more money had we have signed with that builder. So thankfully, we stuck with the builder that fixed their costs, was really transparent with us, and we were able to deliver a contract on time and on budget.
Yeah, for sure. And that sort of, this whole conversation sort of, comes full circle, because a cheap contract may indeed have more provisional sums than a fixed price contract, and then a cheaper contract can definitely leapfrog a more expensive fixed price contract by the end of the project.
Yeah, definitely. Doing your tender evaluation is really important as well. So not just thinking, this quote's low, why is it low? But actually getting into it, like ask for cost breakdowns on tender items, concrete, how many cubes have they allowed for?
So is that drawing a genuine comparison across, all your items, timber, concrete, steel, and try and get a bit of a gauge on where they've gone wrong, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Put them side by side. And a really simple saying that we say downstairs is we like to compare apples with apples. So making sure that they've allowed for the same timber engineered board that we've specified. Some builders will go ahead and specify a product because they know it's cheaper, but we don't actually want that product. We want the product that we're specifying. So making sure that, if you put them side by side, you can see where the cost differences are going to be against 3 or 4 other quotes.
All right, Marcus, awesome. Great work. Some gold in there as well. How do experienced developers manage builders effectively?
We've probably been over it, but it's, yeah, like we said, it's a lot of the pre-contract work that we do, understanding all those risks, understanding the contract and what you're signing, and building that relationship throughout that process. And then once you're signed, hopefully both parties are on the same page, and typically we like to almost just put it in the bottom drawer and forget about it.
Yeah.
If we have to pull it out, we will, but we want to build contract that we can manage just as a relationship, which has taken some time to get to with us. Obviously, we work with a lot of builders, but hopefully you can spend enough time with the builder that you sign with up front so that you're comfortable with them, so you can just manage it, hopefully like humans.
Yeah, 100%. Well, if you've, like you say, you've put the work in at the front end and gone through all the potential issues and had all those convos that the precursor to the actual main show, which is physically building it, hopefully a lot of that stuff's been ironed out.
Yeah, definitely. It's just and just not rushing into signing the contract as well to hopefully pick up some time. I think that's where people can become unstuck.
Yeah.
And then surprises jump up. So if you understand it all and take the extra time, the builder will probably appreciate that you want a good product, they want to build a good product, and you can manage that throughout.
One of the main takeaways I've heard here is not signing the contract too quickly, making sure you're really content with it, because whatever you sign and commit to, it will poke its head up, or if there's holes in it, or if you are exposed, it will come back to bite you during the build when you really have minimal control compared to pre-contract signing.
Yeah, spot on. Get up early and do the work.
Brucey, amazing as always. Some great insights there. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, PK.
Amazing. If you're serious about property development and want to go deeper, here's how we can help. First, join the Little Fish Network. It's our free community where developers share real projects, strategies, and insights every day. The link's below. And if you need a site, we can source and secure the right development opportunity for you through our buyer's agent service. And if you want access to me, I offer full one-on-one mentoring, so you've got me in your corner when you need it. And if you want it done for you, our expert team handles end-to-end project management. And if you're ready to move, book a call with me below and we'll map out the best path forward for you and your project. And if you're still here, I appreciate you sticking around right to the end. Do me a favor, give the video a hype, a like, and drop a comment. I read and reply to all of them. It really helps the channel, helps us keep creating this content for free. I'm Peter Kelly. Until the next one, see you at the top.